Second video. Start recording. Stop messing with me, kid. All right. Hi. So I wanted to post a video that I'm going to try and keep quick. I am going to grab my phone right now and put the timer on, and I'm not going to let myself go past, certainly 15 minutes would be way too much. I wanted to review Maine, militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism a little bit. And I mostly wanted to talk about the assignment that I'm about to give to you, okay? It's a spreadsheet doing some research on different conflicts from throughout U.S. history and seeing how this idea of Maine kind of matches up with them and explains what caused them, what made them happen. So we're doing some research here, okay? It's going to be like the last time that we did a spreadsheet where you choose a couple of rows, you choose the topic, and you do some research and you fill it in. And then I'm going to make a video at the end of the week where I look at some of that and I use it to make my own ultimate, best, perfect chart like I did with the labor rights chart, the examples of the strikes and the actions. So I want to show that to you and go over that with you and show how your work helps me to learn more and get some ideas organized. So we're going to pop over to the shared screen for my PowerPoint. So I got some slides we can take a look at. Connor is no longer interested, but he's going to come back crying in a second. Just wait. So I'm going to set him down and he's going to run off. Bye, Connor. See you, buddy. So militarism was something I tried to talk about a lot in my last video. I hope that I did a good job. It wasn't terrible. Militarism is, Maine is something I try to talk a lot about. Militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. These are underlying and immediate causes of the First World War and of a lot of other conflicts throughout the history of the world. Our specific topic last week was the First World War, and I think I learned from the last video that if I move my mouse really fast, it actually makes it hard for you to see it. So I'm gonna try and move it slowly and see what happens this time. All right. So the First World War is our big topic right now. Starts in 1914. The United States stays out of it. It's the British and the French and the Russians trying to back up this country of Serbia against Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Bulgaria, and eventually the Ottoman Empire, a Muslim empire in the Middle East. World War II will be our topic starting next week. And so we'll talk about how the end of World War I connects to the beginning of World War II. And again, we'll see those main causes: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. First World War was our topic. You know, here, this is my great summary of all of this, the underlying causes. Countries were militaristic and imperialistic. They thought a war was going to happen anyway, and they just wanted to benefit. They wanted more land and more power. There were a lot of alliances, though, that dragged everyone into the war. When Franz Ferdinand, an Austrian leader, was assassinated by Slavic nationalists, all right, Slavic peoples, a group of people that wanted their own countries. They wanted the Austrians out. There's a long, complicated history there in a region called the Balkans. It's a mountain range. Balkanized is a really good word I like to use when it's like people are separated, and so they develop their own group and style and culture and ideas. And balkanized when you're separated by the geography and have your own little cliques because of that and stuff, and you're all kind of sometimes bickering about that. Anywho, I want to pop over to the assignment, and hopefully you can hear that in the background. I'll try to fight Connor on his keyboard, but he really loves that music, and so it's quite possible that he's gonna pull that up. He's listened to a song about the purple monkey and the bubblegum tree. Anywho, this is the chart that you're gonna see. Not the exact chart, because I'm actually gonna hide certain parts of it. What I've included here are conflicts from throughout United States history. So I've got the name of the actual event, starting with the American Revolutionary War. I've got the dates in which it occurred, location, who our country or our government would have been up against, and our allies, who's going to be on our side. So I went ahead and filled in each of these boxes here because I want you to have access to that information. I want you to understand what's going on there. What I want you to be looking for is when you do some research, are there any causes of each conflict that are related to things like militarism? So our country or other countries really valuing the military and being like, let's use this, like use it with force and make it strong. And are there any causes related to militarism? Anything with entangling alliances? So people have alliances that are a little too interconnected or a little too committed. Is it an excuse they use to drag themselves into a conflict to get involved in something? Is it related to imperialism? So this desire for more power and more land and more resources? Or is it related somehow to nationalism? This idea of our identity making us think we're the best, or that we should go against others and prove ourselves, or we've got people struggling to like develop their own identity and that leads to a conflict starting. Doesn't always have to be on our side, it can go either way. And then finally, as always, you'll cite your source for me. So you'll tell me where this information came from. And like I said, some of these original conflicts, I'll probably cut them out. I'm not gonna lie, like, you know that I teach high school. And so everything we teach in US history is basically like 1890s onward. And so I'm definitely not an expert on a lot of this stuff, especially stuff like the Barbary Wars, which were wars against pirates, privateers really, who were fighting on the behalf of certain countries in North Africa. I don't know much about that. How things like Maine relate to it, that might be hard for me to suss out. I think imperialism might be part of that, I guess. But we're going to focus on the modern day. So on the document you see, I'm going to go American Civil War all the way back, and I'm just going to either delete that or hide it. I'll probably also hide the Second Samoan Civil War. That comes around a time where America is definitely quite imperialist and looking to expand. So how this relates to imperialism, you know, I might find some evidence that says the U.S. was expanding and Samoa was in a good strategic location in Pacific Ocean. I might talk about, you know, militarism, like the growth of the U.S. military, how that contributed to the decision to go after Samoa against Germany. But I'll probably hide that as well because I want to leave you the opportunity to do something like the Spanish-American War. You know what? I might leave Samoa there just because, cool, Samoa, it's fun to say too. Spanish-American War, Philippine-American War conflicts, we've also talked like about the corners of them, but haven't gotten super into it. And so I'll leave that space for you to potentially do research on those. Philippine-American War as well is another one you'll have a chance to maybe look at if you choose. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my timer. It disappeared on me. Okay, so I'm getting to 8 minutes, so I gotta speed it up. Anyway, I love talking about all this stuff, but as an example, so I got the First World War, and we've got the dates, 1914 to 1918, U.S. joins in 1917. It's located, happens in Europe. Our opponents, Germany, world wars are always going to have Germany on the opposite side of the United States, the British and the French. So causes related to militarism. Buddy, I really need you to go play. I'm going to do a quick pause that you won't be able to see. Just my full screen. I'm going to do a quick pause and we're going to go play. And you won't know that, but I'm going to come back because he needs some back time. So stop my timer, freeze my screen. I hope that looks cool. All right. Okay, so I should have had this already typed up, but I could pause right now. Again, you would know. Causes related to militarism. All right, many countries in Europe and around the world were focused on building up their military, and this was totally normal to them. All right, so you know that's something that I've talked about a bit. I could be more specific if I want. If I had a source pulled up already, then we could take a look at that again. Entangling alliances. I could talk about how one conflict between Serbia and Austria drags Russia into the conflict, Germany, then France, and Great Britain, and on and on. Okay, cause-related imperialism. You know, I've got all these ideas here, and I wish I had already filled this in, but I didn't restart my timer either. So, geez Louise, this is so awkward and terrible. I hate it. I miss you though, if you're really watching. All right. And then my sources at the end. So I still need to clean this up a little bit before I post it. It'll be posted this Tuesday afternoon, but got a whole lot of conflicts for you to pick from. Some that I'm still, thinking about what I want to do and if I want to leave them there. There are some that are more modern, like Somalia, Syria, Libya, and Yemen. But there's this question of, is it just a conflict or a war? And what does that really mean? I thought it was really interesting when I looked at sources, and I always start with Wikipedia, of course. We talked about that a million different times. But there's this really interesting list of wars involving the United States. And, so it's got a great list of allies, opponents, what the actual conflict is, what happens, where it happened, when. And then there's also this article, Zoom will let me get there, where it's, written out. Okay, so you can read about it if you'd prefer. But then I also there's this article about armed conflicts in general, and it includes way more stuff because our military has, supported other militaries and engaged in all kinds of things around the world. So it's quite an extensive list. And so I'm, constantly going back and forth about what to include and what not to include. I've also got some later on things that I need to go back and put in earlier, where it's a variety of wars across time. The Banana Wars, where America got involved in Central and South America, this country did. There's a lot going on there, and I didn't know if each one needed its own row. Same thing with, I had covered it and hidden it up here, but with the the Indian Wars, you're talking about all kinds of conflicts over the years. And again, each of them relates in some way to Maine. The Indian Wars are all about imperialism and American nationalism, exceptionalism, and things like this. Just to review some of these ideas, again, imperialism, it's this desire for power, for land and territory, and things like this. I love this image of before the war, some of these European powers that were fighting over territory. You can see, especially in Africa right here, you got Germany leading the scramble for Africa, Russia that will become the Soviet Union during the First World War, and then Great Britain as well. All these countries, they'd fought so long and so hard over things across the world that they felt like everything was pretty much split up. And in Europe as well, everything was covered. So they were looking for this next war. That's militarism as well. They anticipated a war to divide things up further. So Austria, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and Russia are going to be the big ones in this conflict. They're all militarized. So the British had invented at this time one of the absolute best ships, and it had this amazing cannon. And so they're all militarized and thinking that's very important. Some other ideas of things I wanted to add, maybe pictures. All right, so this word militarized, we can hang on to that by thinking about militarized police, something that I hope we can talk about before the end of the year. So we got a whole Wikipedia article. We'll go to the ACLU, even better, American Civil Liberties Union. So we're talking about police having, not very good pictures though. Let's jump to the images on the search. We're talking about police having, military grade gear. This image has been going around a lot lately, showing a young Black woman being arrested by, heavily armored police and stuff. That's been compared a lot to a white man yelling at police in Lansing, protesting about the current stay-at-home order and stuff. So we could talk about militarized police having jeeps and tanks and, all these different things, and how do we feel about that? But that's an example of militarism. I also had this idea of, we have countries that are very militarized, like North Korea is known for being militarized. and everyone serves in the military, and they spend a lot of money on the military. So these images as well, that's total glorification of the military. And it's not unique to North Korea. The USA budget for the military, we're a very militarized country. So you look at comparison of how much we spend on the military compared to other things we spend money on, or even other countries. This is a good image. I don't know. It's from the Washington Post, so I like that. Go ahead and copy that image and paste it into my PowerPoint because it's a good one. You can see all of these countries stacked up. How much they spend on the military doesn't even quite equal what the U.S. spends. The word militarized is also a good word you can remember, because militant is another kind of form of it. It means someone that's willing to engage in combat or conflict or a fight. The Black Panthers were often considered militant, or at least called militant. They certainly knew their rights and were willing to carry arms and to be intimidating, but whether or not that makes them really militant, they're very educated and intelligent and amazing as well. So militant is often a word used to describe the Panthers. But those protesters in Lansing that I just mentioned were also quite militant. If you need to arm yourself to protest peacefully, then I wouldn't necessarily call that a peaceful protest. Black people used to walk into assaults during the civil rights movement, and these guys know they're walking into freedom, but I would definitely describe them as militant. And then I'm at 15:05, so I should probably wrap it up like I said I would. I could dive into alliances with some modern examples. I was going to do some fictional examples of imperialism, talking about, like, from the show Avatar, the Fire Nation is imperialist and wants to take over the rest of the world. Fire Nation is also heavily militarized compared to other nations. But anywho, we had talked about some of these slides before, how the militarization means they have better guns and artillery, airplanes and tanks, radio and telephone. They've got new chemicals they can try and use, but they're using old tactics that everyone just lines up and charges, and they build trenches, and it becomes this like nasty stalemate where they're just stuck blowing each other up and shooting each other up. And if you've ever seen the film Wonder Woman, that's a great representation of some of it in some ways, except, nastier and more suffering. Man, I forgot I had that I could work into this now that I teach U.S. history again. So let's see. Review of nationalism. Okay, I think we've done good on that. I still just love this image of, I can represent this as, so let's say Serbia starting us off. All right, so Serbia is going to be upsetting Austria, because Austria is where Franz Ferdinand was from. So Serbian in Serbia, Franz Ferdinand is killed by Slavic nationalists. So Austria demands that Serbia do something about this. Serbia is just like, bro, this has nothing to do with me. I'm sorry about what happened, but, back up off. Russia is going to be like, hey, Austria, leave my man's Serbia alone. And then Germany is going to say, hey, Russia, stop bullying my man's Austria. Like, we are so ready, me and Austria, to go to war with you immediately. And then France is like, I've got an alliance with Russia, and so you guys should totally back up off. And Great Britain's like, yeah, man, I went in on this too. Like, and there you go. I'm at 17 minutes. I'm a liar. And, whatever. All right. Take care of yourselves. If this video sucked, if you think I'm the worst, if you don't understand stuff, please let me know. All right. Allow me to be of service. I will post the assignment, and, well, never mind. By the time you see the end of this video, the assignment will be posted. So I don't know why I'm explaining that. But, all right. Bye. Signing off. Be safe, be smart, and I'll talk to you hopefully soon.